Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump curbed illegal immigration, boosted the economy, enacted tax reform, and resolved international conflicts, all in the span of 12 months. Homicides are on race to see the biggest single-year drop the U.S. has ever seen, according to a new report. New York City officially has a new mayor today. Zohran Mamdani was inaugurated as the first Democratic socialist to hold office. Hear what the locals have to say. Many have felt helpless after suddenly losing a loved one due to fentanyl overdose. But one mother decided to do something about that after losing her son. In Switzerland, dozens are dead and about 100 people injured after a fire tore through a New Year's Eve party at a ski resort bar. We hear from officials with the latest.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. From Times Square to the streets of London, Madrid, and Rio, millions around the world ring in 2026 with spectacle, tradition, and reflection. Here's a look at how the world welcomed in the new year, with the U.S. marking a historic milestone.
New York City rang in 2026 with a famed Times Square ball drop. Crowds bundled up against the chilly temperatures as the ball, covered in more than 5,000 crystals, descended down a pole. The revelers were treated to a surprise as the ball was relit in red, white, and blue before rising again to mark the start of the United States' 250th year. It was a significant moment for many among the thousands who were there to witness it.
I think it's awesome. We both served the country, so it's special to us as veterans, so it's cool to be here.
Well, our country is strong, and it's amazing that we've been here for 250 years, and we're hopeful to be here for another 250 years going forward.
Happy to be American, proud to be here, proud to welcome people from all over the world.
Across the Atlantic 5 hours earlier, London Mayor Sadiq Khan welcomed in 2026 along thousands of merrymakers by the River Thames. Khan said the city had been working on the celebration for months, with more than 12,000 fireworks, as well as lights and animation. Spectators watched as the iconic London Eye took center stage.
For me, it's just one of my dreams to look at the celebration in this because of the building and the firework together. So it's really excited we just did here. And yes, I just achieved one of my dreams. I'm so excited of that.
And in Madrid, Spain, a unique tradition to ring in the new year. As the clock struck 12 on the Real Casa de Correos, the headquarters of Madrid's regional government, revelers ate one grape for every chime of the bell. Compare that to the more than 2 million partygoers who gather at Rio de Janeiro's famed Copacabana beach. An estimated 15,000 people squeezed into the square.
It's amazing. It's the first time I came. It's beautiful. I can't describe it. It's very emotional.
Rio's New Year's Eve celebration has been officially recognized by Guinness World Records as the biggest New Year's Eve celebration in the world.
And over in D.C., the Washington Monument is putting on a light show as part of a celebration for America's upcoming 250th birthday. Here's a look.
As the nation prepares to enter 2026, the Washington Monument in D.C. took on a different look to honor the 250th anniversary of America's founding. Glowing with images, the obelisk turns into a canvas through a large-scale projection, displaying the trajectory of our nation's development, both past and present.
I wish we have more people here watching this. This is amazing. They put up some great work. Just seeing a projection that high, that's amazing.
The show was presented by Freedom 250, a nonpartisan group launched by President Trump. It features 5 chapters of America's development: discovery, the Revolutionary War, westward expansion, the Industrial Revolution, and modern day and the future of our nation.
And they have George Washington, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, all of our founding fathers up there that we're so proud of. And I think it's just so exciting to have somebody in the White House that loves America, that wants to celebrate America, and I think we're behind him.
Spectators reflecting on the paths America has traveled.
We came from a squalid little nation, we were settlers, and now we're here, pioneering, greatest country in the world, so I think it's amazing.
And from a world perspective, it's pretty young, but for here, it's pretty cool and pretty exciting. To be this young, to be this powerful, and to be such a world influence is pretty awesome.
The New Year's Eve projection on the Washington Monument is just a prelude to what's coming in 2026. The Trump administration is leading multiple events throughout the year to celebrate America's founding.
I think it's bringing back a sense of national pride. You know, we went through a couple of decades where people were ashamed and they wanted to be sad. Now we're at this point where we want to be prideful about America and what it stands for, what it's done, what we're going to do. So it's 250 years of celebration, but it's like 250 years looking forward. What comes next for our country?
The installation is set to last from December 31st to January 5th, and will be free and open to the public at the National Mall.
President Trump, meanwhile, welcomed the new year at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. He shared his New Year's resolutions with reporters.
Mr. President, do you have a New Year's resolution?
I have. Peace on earth. Peace on earth. You can come in if you'd like.
Trump also vowed last night to get to the bottom of an alleged welfare fraud scandal in Minnesota. And he presided over a charity auction, bringing in more than $2.5 million for a painting of Jesus. Several administration officials also joined the celebration, including Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem and U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro. As we kick off the new year, we take a look back at how President Trump's second term has reshaped U.S. policy at home and abroad. Our Washington correspondent, Jack Bradley, takes us through some of the highlights.
Over the past year, President Trump and his administration have delivered on many of the promises he made when returning to office, reshaping U.S. policy at home and abroad through an America First agenda. On January 20th, Trump was sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, becoming just the second president in American history to serve non-consecutive terms. Within hours of taking office, he signed a series of executive orders with his top priority, securing the southern border.
We inherited the worst border anywhere in the world, and we quickly turned it into the strongest border in the history of our country.
He declared a national emergency, fast-tracked deportations, and moved to restrict birthright citizenship.
We have deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion.
The first bill Trump signed into law was the Laken Riley Act, named after a Georgia nursing student killed by a Venezuelan illegal immigrant linked to the Tren de Aragua terrorist gang.
Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all.
Since the law was passed, more than 17,500 criminal illegal immigrants have been arrested and detained under the law. At the same time, fentanyl trafficking at the southern border is down 50% compared to the same period last year. These are Homeland Security stats showing historic enforcement records. More than 2.5 million illegal immigrants have left the U.S. in just 250 days, including an estimated 1.9 million self-deportations and more than 622,000 formal removals.
We have sent a strong message to criminal illegal aliens that we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will deport you.
President Trump also designated multiple foreign gangs as terrorist organizations to rapidly detain and deport members. He authorized strikes on drug trafficking vessels departing Venezuela and bound for the U.S., with land operations now being prepared.
So much of the drugs, 25–30%, would come in through the seas. Right now we have, I would say, none coming in through the seas. We are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
Domestically, Trump designated Antifa as a terrorist organization, citing years of violent unrest, intimidation, and attacks on law enforcement.
It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa.
On the economic front, the Trump administration has brought in record tariff revenues, renegotiated trade agreements, and secured trillions of dollars in domestic and foreign investment commitments.
Which means jobs, wage increases, growth, factory openings, and far greater national security.
Trump also launched the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, tasking Elon Musk with rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. DOGE reports federal cuts totaling more than $214 billion, though some estimates remain under review. In July, Congress passed and Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, funding key priorities, including immigration enforcement, no tax on tips, and no tax on overtime, to name just a few. And internationally, President Trump pursued diplomacy through transaction, using tariffs, trade, and economic leverage to broker peace deals. Using that strategy, he brought multiple armed conflicts to an end, including between India and Pakistan, Cambodia and Thailand, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. His most high-profile achievement, a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, leading to the return of nearly all Israeli hostages. In June, Trump ordered Operation Midnight Hammer, precision strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. Pentagon officials say the operation caused extremely severe damage and significantly delayed Iran's nuclear weapons program.
The strikes were a spectacular military success.
Trump also actively worked toward a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, and his team has conducted extensive negotiations, developing a 20-point peace plan. He says both sides are nearing closer to an agreement.
Our meeting was excellent. We covered, somebody would say 95%. I don't know what percent, but we have made a lot of progress.
Trump also pushed NATO allies to increase defense spending, approved a record $11 billion arms sale to Taiwan, and intensified pressure on China. Tariffs on Chinese goods remain at 47.5%, part of a broader strategy to economically decouple. China has since suspended rare earth export controls and resumed major U.S. agricultural purchases. From border security and economic growth to global diplomacy and military deterrence, President Trump's second term has reshaped U.S. policy at home and abroad. Some world leaders have gone so far as to call him the most deserving candidate of the Nobel Peace Prize. Reporting by Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Many have felt helpless after suddenly losing a loved one due to fentanyl overdose. But one mother decided to do something about that after losing her son. Find out more after this break.
With Select Specs £6 specs, you can get 10 pairs of prescription glasses for just £60. That includes frames, prescription lenses, and delivery free to your door. And what makes this really special is each pair can have a different prescription. So it's glasses for everyone. SelectSpecs.com/£6. 10 frames, all with prescription lenses and anti-scratch coating for just £60. You don't get that on the high street. Right now you can save an extra 5% with offer code CG5OFF.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
This is Pho-licious. Now, what is pho? It's an authentic Vietnamese noodle dish. Pho-licious chicken pho brings the comforting, aromatic flavors of Vietnam to your bowl. And Mama Thu's signature spice blend. Well, this chicken pho is as close to homemade as it gets without the wait. Some cubed chicken, a little lime, and then the magic moment. See you soon, my friends.
Pho-licious is now available at your local Walmart or walmart.com.
In a statement on Truth Social yesterday, President Trump said he will be withdrawing National Guard troops from multiple cities in the U.S. who were there to improve security. Trump said the National Guard will be removed from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland. He added that crime has been, quote, greatly reduced by having these great patriots in those cities. But he left the door open to sending federal forces in a much different and stronger form if crime begins to soar again. The president also criticized local leaders who have opposed his deployment of the troops to the cities. Trump's policy change came after a U.S. Supreme Court decision which ruled that Trump could not deploy National Guard troops to protect federal immigration agents. President Trump is delaying a planned tariff hike on imported furniture and cabinets, keeping current duties in place while trade talks continue. The delay comes under a proclamation tied to national security concerns over foreign wood product imports. The tariff increase, originally set for January 2026, is now pushed back 1 year. Meanwhile, the current 25% tariff will remain in effect. The White House says predatory foreign government subsidies on imported lumber and predatory trade practices undermine the competitiveness of the U.S. wood products industry. Now, good news for pasta lovers. Italy says the U.S. has sharply lowered proposed tariffs on several Italian pasta makers following a review. Here's more.
Back in October, the Trump administration said that 13 Italian pasta companies would face an extra 92% duty on top of the regular 15% rate on most EU imports from January 2026. They accused two producers in particular of selling pasta at unfairly low prices. After a review, the Department of Commerce cut the tariffs for pasta producer La Molisana to 2.26%, and Garofalo's tariffs were set at 13.8%. The remaining producers were not named individually, and they face a tariff of 9.09%. The Italian Foreign Ministry said in a statement the move signals that the U.S. recognizes Italian companies' constructive willingness to cooperate. The full conclusions of the U.S. review are expected on March 11th. The U.S. market is worth almost $800 million to Italian pasta makers.
Okay, so homicides are on the rise, and in Venezuela, Venezuela is the focus of some recent U.S. government actions. The Trump administration yesterday imposed sanctions on 4 firms operating in Venezuela's oil sector. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the move, which also designated 4 additional oil tankers as blocked property.
The U.S. accuses the ships of being part of a shadow fleet serving President Nicolas Maduro's government. The Treasury Department says Maduro's regime increasingly depends on the shadow fleet to evade sanctions and raise cash for its narco-terrorist operations. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, President Trump has been clear, we will not allow the illegitimate Maduro regime to profit from exporting oil while it floods the United States with deadly drugs. The Treasury Department says it will continue to implement President Trump's campaign of pressure on Maduro's regime. U.S. forces have seized 2 oil tankers off Venezuela's coast and are pursuing another. The government has also conducted a series of deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean. Yesterday, Joint Task Force Southern Spear killed 5 people in a lethal strike on 2 vessels. it says were operated by designated terrorist organizations. The move was carried out at the direction of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. The government says the vessels were traveling along known narco-trafficking routes and engaged in narco-trafficking. Such strikes on alleged drug boats have killed at least 110 people since early September. Republican Senator Rand Paul has criticized the Trump administration for blowing up boats of what he described as unarmed people suspected of being drug dealers. President Trump announced earlier this month a blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers coming in and out of the South American country. He also demanded that Venezuela return assets that it seized from U.S. oil companies years ago. The actions are part of the Trump administration's months-long pressure campaign on Maduro, who is widely viewed as a dictator, presiding over an authoritarian regime marked by rigged elections, systemic corruption, and widespread human rights abuses. Under Maduro, Venezuela has plunged into economic collapse and repression. According to the United Nations and Human Rights Watch, more than 20,000 people have been subjected to extrajudicial killings during Maduro's rule. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Since returning to office, President Trump has greatly impacted America's domestic and international priorities. Joining us now is retired U.S. Navy Captain Armin Kurdian. He's also a foreign policy and national security analyst, as well as a California State Senate candidate. And we have Gerard Filitti, attorney specializing in international law, as well as a foreign affairs analyst specializing in the Middle East. So good afternoon to you both. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. So I just wanted to have a conversation today about what President Trump has done over the past year, his policies. And one of the first acts was to address illegal immigration by the Trump administration. And if I may, Armin, I'll start with you. Customs and Border Protection reports that illegal immigration dropped to the lowest numbers in recorded history. What has President Trump gotten right on immigration, and what more needs to be done?
Good day, Don, and Happy New Year. He's shown that process is the way you got to look at a lot of things when something's not working. You don't just throw more money at a problem. You saw Secretary Mayorkas under the previous administration and Joe Biden and everybody saying, we need more money. Congress needs to do its job, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, that was not true. With simple executive orders, direction, and allowing the Customs and Border Patrol and ICE to do their job and follow the law as it is written, he was able to bring this down to by 94%. I think a lot of folks forget that with all this protests that are happening in our cities, the fact that immigrants aren't dying at the border, they aren't dying in lawless parts of Central and South America, that how many lives have actually been saved by this action, how many people are going to live because Donald Trump is actually enforcing the law. That is a statistic that is not spoken highly enough.
Okay, Gerard, let me go to you now. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Look, I think President Trump has accomplished a lot in the last year, resetting American priorities, both domestically and internationally. We've seen the decrease in immigration, we've seen crime, we've seen stability relations with our allies, something that was severely missing under President Biden. So what we really see is a new beginning. What Trump has done as America First is to enforce American priorities, and that means our economy and our foreign interests are now aligned with what we can do. So this has really been a dramatic change from in the last 4 years.
Okay, so Armin, Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, right? So the law gives him authority to target members of MS-13 Trendy Argua. So I want to ask you, Armin, have Trump's immigration policies helped to make streets safer?
Absolutely. The number of violent criminals that have been taken off our streets, whether they're crimes that he committed here in the United States or crimes that were committed outside of the United States. Again, child sex traffickers, drug traffickers, assault, fraud, all these kinds of crimes, murder. The number of people, I don't even know that the CBP has a good idea, and ICE has a good idea of how many they've taken out, but it is a lot of folks. Trump has basically tried to use every measure on the books that he possibly can to try to make our country safer. He's done a very good job of it. And I have never seen elected leaders and city councils all the way up through governors work so hard to try to protect criminals and keep them in their own cities.
So Gerard, same question to you. Armin says streets are safer. What is your view on the success of making America safer through the lens of immigration?
The success here is that President Trump has actually done something about it. He's actually implemented measures based on the law in order to deal with these issues. He hasn't ignored crime, transnational crime, international terrorist organizations, including drug cartels. He didn't make it a local issue, which many other administrations have done. He made it a national priority, and that meant that we could use the armed forces. That means we can use the National Guard in certain cities. That means that forces of the government are going into combating these transnational organizations that have done so much harm on a local level. So for the first time, really ever, local authorities are getting the help that they need from the federal government to deal with these problems. That's really unique under President Trump.
Okay, Armin, another thing that perhaps some may argue was controversial this year. What are your thoughts on his executive order to end birthright citizenship?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You know, and there's a part of me that finds the idea of being born on American soil as something that is majestic, something that is a dream for a lot of people. We have to make sure that that process, though, is not simply abused, that people simply aren't coming across the border to have children and then leave. I think this is something that the Supreme Court is going to have to take up. Obviously, the question is, you know, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The Supreme Court has ruled in certain cases that anybody born on U.S. soil, such as, say, a child born to parents who are citizens of a country that is engaged in hostilities with the U.S., would not count as citizenship, or someone who was wanted by a foreign government for law enforcement is also not subject to this jurisdiction. So I think if the president tries to say, you know, we're going to end all birthright citizenship, he is probably going to lose. But if he can come up with some very specific situations and perhaps limit it, this is not the biggest problem, obviously, within the U.S. I know we have this problem with anchor babies. People talk about it. But the larger problem has always been simply the influx of people coming across the border, men or women, whether or not they're having children. So this is something they need to look at. I think if he's judicious in what he asks the Supreme Court to rule on, he could be successful.
Gerard, Armin raises the issue of potential abuse in this subject. The Supreme Court is expected to further rule on it this year. Where do you see this going? How could it impact the nation?
Well, that's absolutely right, that the Supreme Court will be the final arbiter of what the 14th Amendment says and whether birthright citizenship remains unchanged as we have understood it for the last 100 years or so, or whether it will change in accordance with Donald Trump's executive order. I think regardless of how the court rules, what this shows is that Americans who voted for Donald Trump, and the priority of this government is to make sure that our resources are going back to the people who pay the taxes, who are here legally, who follow the rules. I think that what Donald Trump is really going at with birthright citizenship is the drain on our economy that has happened for many, many years now, where benefits, we see this in Minnesota, we see this in many states, the fraud and abuse that's happening, and part of it can be traced to people who come here, not just to give birth, but to abuse our system. So this really fits in part of the larger immigration question and the cost that illegal immigration has had on our country. Sure, we need legal immigrants, but we need to have that structured. And this is really revolutionary that under the Trump administration, we're finally seeing that structure.
Okay, Armin, there's just so much President Trump has done this year. Let me try to fit in maybe one or two more things. His tariffs, on more than 80 countries. He attributed ending wars to tariffs, trillions of investment into the U.S. as well. And the inflation rate is actually currently lower than when it was at when Trump took office. So, Armin, how has Trump's use of tariffs impacted U.S. interests domestically and abroad?
I think it's a little surprising to a lot of us, even a lot of conservative economists who thought that a lot of these tariffs were going to lead to an economic slowdown, not necessarily inflation in and of itself, but seeing inflation coming down. I think one of the biggest things that Trump has done that's related to the economic boom has been the forceful deregulation of the U.S., especially when it comes to the energy industry. Energy costs, are basically go into everything else that we do within the United States. So it's all part of a larger picture. Now, I think he went a little bit overboard early on when he picked a fight with the entire planet on tariffs, but I think cooler heads prevailed, and he has been able to use them a little bit more judiciously and also as a punitive measure, not just for, other economic imbalances around the world, but also for non-economic issues, which I think tariffs can be used for. So that, the big, beautiful bill, the deregulation, the growth that we have seen, Unfortunately, back during 2020, we had massive growth. We had massive employment. Unemployment was at its lowest level forever, and COVID hit. I think this time Donald Trump is going to end his term with a significant economic growth and very large employment.
Okay, Gerard, we just have about 60 seconds here. Did Trump go overboard, as Armin said, about his tariffs?
Armin is absolutely right about the importance of deregulation. That is what is going to be driving economic growth and manufacturing growth. It's scaling back on all the regulations and high costs that have impeded American businesses and American manufacturing. The tariffs, I think we have seen that overall they've been a net benefit, but the way they were implemented was very rough. It cost a lot of opportunities for American companies that had the uncertainty of where we were going with tariffs, and that needed to be priced into their business models. To some extent, we still do have that uncertainty despite the Supreme Court ruling, because President Trump has indicated that he still wants to implement tariffs, but he needs a different basis to do so. So the tariff question is yet to play out in 2026, but so far it's been a benefit to the American economy.
All right, well said, both of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us on this New Year's Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Homicides are on pace to see the biggest single-year drop the U.S. has ever seen, according to a new report. Find out why after this break.
A performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I was depressed in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Homicides are on pace to see the biggest single-year drop the U.S. has ever seen, according to a new report. Joining us now is John Lott, the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. John is an economist and world-recognized expert on guns and crime. He also served as the senior advisor for research and Statistics in the U.S. Department of Justice under the first Trump administration. John, good afternoon to you and Happy New Year. Thank you very much for joining us today. So let me just give you a bit more information on this report. The real-time crime index, it shows a nearly 20% decline in murders this year compared to 2024. Can I just ask you to start off here, how significant is this drop?
Well, we're on path right now for the lowest murder rate ever recorded in the United States. In 2024, the murder rate was slightly below 5 per 100,000. The previous record low was 4.5 per 100,000. And so if it's a 20% drop, you're going to be talking about something that's about 4 murders per 100,000 people. So that's substantially below the record low that we had before. This data that we have right now is through October, from January through October. So, the question is, will it continue through the rest of the year? But even if it's not quite at the same pace, it's pretty clear we're still going to have a record low murder rate in the United States.
What do you think caused this? What's your explanation for why we're seeing such a big drop?
Well, I think there are multiple reasons for that. Look, it's not rocket science for reducing crime. You have to make it riskier for criminals to go and commit crime. Things like higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences, letting individuals be able to go and defend themselves. All those things make it riskier for criminals to commit crime. Trump has demonstrated that in places like Washington, D.C. and Memphis, where he's federalized law enforcement in those places. You've had the FBI doubling the number of arrests that they've made this year compared to 2024. You've also dealt with illegal aliens. Illegal aliens commit a lot more crime, disproportionately crime in the United States. Trump has concentrated on deporting criminal illegal aliens, but it's more than that. Even the ones that he hasn't caught are worried about getting deported. And the way that they keep themselves from being deported is to go and keep off of police radar. And the way they keep off of being on police radar is not to commit many crimes. Because if they get arrested or they get charged, ICE is often there in many parts of the country to go and detain them and deport them. And so they don't want to get arrested or charged with crimes.
So you asked the question earlier whether these numbers are sustainable, but if Trump's policies, as you described just now, continue into the new year, is it reasonable to assume that we're going to continue seeing a further drop in crime numbers?
Well, yeah, I think if you continue doing the policies that you've been doing, I think it's reasonable to assume you're going to continue to see the lower numbers that we have here. I don't see any reason why they would change. You have U.S. attorneys around the country who are prosecuting a lot more criminals. You have more people being arrested. Those are all positive signs. And if they keep on trying to deport the criminal illegal aliens, you not only remove them, but you make it so that the remaining criminal illegals that you haven't caught are going to be reticent to go and get caught by police. So they're not going to want to go and commit crimes.
Okay, so John, I'm not an expert on this, so I want to ask you this. Does a sharp drop in homicide necessarily mean a drop in violence? Or does it mean everyday people actually feel safer in daily life?
Well, I mean, murders are a small part of overall violent crime. The two don't necessarily go together. But I think after the huge percentage increase that we saw in violent crime during the Biden administration, I think that that's also going to be reversed this year. There are two measures that you have of crime. One is the FBI data on crimes reported to police, and that fell by about 8% during the Biden administration. But we have a much broader measure of total violent crimes from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. And that's kind of the gold standard for looking at crime changes. And that increased by a record 59% during the 4 years of the Biden administration. We've never seen anything even remotely similar to that in the past. And I think we're going to see this year. I mean, the data won't come out until September of this year. But when it finally comes out for 2025, I think we'll see a substantial drop, not only in murders, but also in violent crime across the board.
Okay, so John, we're talking about this drop, but it's actually in relative terms compared to 2024, right? So I'm wondering if you can paint us a picture of the current level of crime in the U.S. compared to historically.
Right. Well, I mean, if you compare it to the early 90s or whatever, we're much lower, obviously. But, you know, as I say, in terms of murder rates, if it remains on path for what it's been doing up through October, you're going to have a murder rate that we've never seen. In the entire time that we've recorded data on murders, it would never have been as low as 4 per 100,000. It may even be slightly below that. That would be record lows. We've never seen anything even close to that.
Well, all right, John. Good to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy New Year. People can find more at our website at crimeresearch.org. But thank you.
Right. And I encourage our viewers to do that. Thank you. New York City officially has a new mayor today. Zohran Mamdani is inaugurated as the first Democratic Socialist to hold office. Senator Bernie Sanders, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, and Attorney General Letitia James attended the ceremony. Let's take a look.
Please repeat after me. I, Zohran Kwame Mamdani,
I, Zohran Kwame Mamdani,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Charter of the City of New York,
and the Charter of the City of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the Mayor of the City of New York,
of the office of the Mayor of the City of New York,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God. My fellow New Yorkers, today begins a new era. I stand before you moved by the privilege of taking this sacred oath, humbled by the faith that you have placed in me, and honored to serve as either your 111th or 112th mayor of New York City. But I do not stand alone. I stand alongside you, the tens of thousands of you gathered here in Lower Manhattan, warmed against the January chill by the resurgent flame of hope. I stand alongside countless more New Yorkers watching from cramped kitchens in Flushing and barbershops in East New York, from cell phones propped against the dashboards of parked taxicabs at LaGuardia, from hospitals in Mott Haven and libraries in El Barrio that have too long known only neglect. I stand alongside construction workers in steel-toed boots and halal cart vendors whose knees ache from working all day. I stand alongside neighbors who carry a plate of food to the elderly couple down the hall, those in a rush who still lift strangers' strollers up subway stairs, and every person who makes the choice day after day, even when it feels impossible, to call our city home. I stand alongside over 1 million New Yorkers who voted for this day nearly 2 months ago. And I stand just as resolutely alongside those who did not. I know there are some who view this administration with distrust or disdain, or who see politics as permanently broken. And while only action can change minds, I promise you this: if you are a New Yorker, I am your mayor. Regardless of whether we agree, I will protect you, celebrate with you, mourn alongside you, and never, not for a second, hide from you. I thank the labor and movement leaders here today, the activists and the elected officials who will return to fighting for New Yorkers the second this ceremony concludes, and the performers who have gifted us with their talent. Thank you to Governor Hochul. Thank you as well to Mayor Adams. Dorothy's son, a son of Brownsville who rose from washing dishes to the highest position in our city, for being here as well. He and I have had our share of disagreements, but I will always be touched that he chose me as the mayoral candidate that he would most want to be trapped with on an elevator. Thank you to the two titans who, as an assembly member, I've had the privilege of being represented by in Congress, Nidia Velázquez and our incredible opening speaker, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You have paved the way for this moment. Thank you to the man whose leadership I seek most to emulate, who I am so grateful to be sworn in by today, Senator Bernie Sanders. Thank you to my teams, from the assembly to the campaign to the transition, and now the team I am so excited to lead from City Hall. Thank you to my parents, Mama and Baba, for raising me, for teaching me how to be in this world, and for having brought me to this city. Thank you to my family, from Kampala to Delhi. And thank you to my wife, Rama. For being my best friend and for always showing me the beauty in everyday things. And most of all, thank you to the people of New York. A moment like this comes rarely. Seldom do we hold such an opportunity to transform and reinvent. Rarer still is it the people themselves whose hands are the ones upon the levers of change. And yet we know that too often in our past, moments of great possibility have been promptly surrendered to small imagination and smaller ambition. What was promised was never pursued. What could have changed remained the same. For the New Yorkers most eager to see our city remade, the weight has only grown heavier. The wait has only grown longer. In writing this address, I have been told that this is the occasion to reset expectations, that I should use this opportunity to encourage the people of New York to ask for little and expect even less. I will do no such thing. The only expectation I seek to reset is that of small expectations. Beginning today, we will govern expansively and audaciously. We may not always succeed, but never will we be accused of lacking the courage to try. To those who insist that the era of big government is over, hear me when I say this. No longer will City Hall hesitate to use its power to improve New Yorkers' lives. For too long, we have turned to the private sector for greatness while accepting mediocrity from those who serve the public. I cannot blame anyone who has come to question the role of government, whose faith in democracy has been eroded by decades of apathy. We will restore that trust by walking a different path, One where government is no longer solely the final recourse for those struggling. One where excellence is no longer the exception. We expect greatness from the cooks wielding 1,000 spices, from those who stride out onto our Broadway stages, and from our starting point guard at Madison Square Garden. Let us demand the same from those who work in government. In a city where the mere names of our streets are associated with the innovation of the industries that call them home, we will make the word City Hall synonymous with both resolve and results. As we embark upon this work, let us advance a new question, a new answer to the question asked of every generation. Who does New York belong to? For much of our history, the response from City Hall has been simple. It belongs only to the wealthy and well-connected, those who never strain to capture the attention of those in power. Working people have reckoned with the consequences. Crowded classrooms and public housing developments where the elevators sit out of orders. Roads littered with potholes and buses that arrive half an hour late, if at all. Wages that do not rise and corporations that rip off consumers and employees alike. And still, there have been brief, fleeting moments where the equation changed. 12 years ago, Bill de Blasio stood where I stand now as he promised to put an end to economic and social inequalities that divided our city into two. In 1990, David Dinkins swore the same oath I swore today, vowing to celebrate the gorgeous mosaic that is New York, where every one of us is deserving of a decent life. And nearly 6 decades before him, Fiorella LaGuardia took office with the goal of building a city that was far greater and more beautiful for the hungry and the poor. Some of these mayors achieved more success than others, but they were unified by a shared belief that New York could belong to more than just a privileged few. It could belong to those who operate our subways and rake our parks, those who feed us biryani and beef patties, picanha and pastrami on rye. And they know that this belief could be made true if only government dared to work hardest for those who work hardest. Over the years to come, my administration will resurrect that legacy. City Hall will deliver an agenda of safety, affordability, and abundance, where government looks and lives like the people it represents, never flinches in the fight against corporate greed, and refuses to cower before challenges that others have deemed too complicated. In so doing, we will provide our own answer to that age-old question. Who does New York belong to? Well, my friends, we can look to Madiba and the South African Freedom Charter. New York belongs to all who live in it. Together, we will tell a new story of our city. This will not be a tale of one city governed only by the 1%, nor will it be a tale of two cities, the rich versus the poor. It will be a tale of 8.5 million cities, each of them a New Yorker with hopes and fears, each a universe, each of them woven together. The authors of this story will speak Pashto and Mandarin, Yiddish and Creole. They will pray in mosques, at shul, at church, at gurudwaras and mandirs and temples. And many will not pray at all. They will be Russian Jewish immigrants in Brighton Beach, Italians in Rossville, and Irish families in Woodhaven, many of whom came here with nothing but a dream of a better life, a dream which has withered away. They will be young people in cramped Marble Hill apartments where the walls shake when the subway passes. They will be black homeowners in St. Albans, whose homes represent a physical testament to triumph over decades of lesser-paid labor and redlining. They will be Palestinian New Yorkers in Bay Ridge, who will no longer have to contend with a politics that speaks of universalism and then makes them the exception. Few of these 8.5 million will fit into neat and easy boxes. Some will be voters from Hillside Avenue or Fordham Road who supported President Trump a year before they voted for me, tired of being failed by their party's establishment. The majority will not use the language that we often expect from those who wield influence. I welcome the change. For too long, those fluent in the good grammar of civility have deployed decorum to mask agendas of cruelty. Many of these people have been betrayed by the established order. But in our administration, their needs will be met. Their hopes and dreams and interests will be reflected transparently in government. They will shape our future. And if for too long these communities have existed as distinct from one another, we will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers. And it will be New Yorkers who reform a long broken property tax system. New Yorkers who will create a new Department of Community Safety that will tackle the mental health crisis and let the police focus on the job they signed up to do. New Yorkers who will take on the bad landlords who mistreat their tenants and free small business owners from the shackles of bloated bureaucracy. And I am proud to be one of those New Yorkers. When we won the primary last June, there were many who said these aspirations and those who held them had come out of nowhere. Yet one man's nowhere is another man's somewhere. This movement came out of 8.5 million somewheres. Taxi cab depots and Amazon warehouses, DSA meetings and curbside domino games. The powers that be had looked away from these places for quite some time if they'd known about them at all. So they dismissed them as nowhere. But in our city, where every corner of these 5 boroughs holds power, there is no nowhere and there is no no one. There is only New York and there are only New Yorkers. 8.5 million New Yorkers will speak this new era into existence. It will be loud. It will be different. It will feel like the New York we love. No matter how long you have called this city home, that love has shaped your life. I know that it has shaped mine. This is the city where I set land speed records on my Razor scooter at the age of 12. Quickest 4 blocks of my life. The city where I ate powdered donuts at halftimes during AYSO soccer games and realized I probably was not going to be going pro. The city where I devoured 2 big slices at Coronet's Pizza, played cricket with my friends at Ferry Point Park, and took the 1 train to the BX10 only to still show up late to Bronx Science. The city where I have gone on hunger strike just outside these gates. Sat claustrophobic on a stalled N train just after Atlantic Avenue and waited in quiet terror for my father to emerge from 26 Federal Plaza. The city where I took a beautiful woman named Rama to McCarran Park on our first date and swore a different oath to become an American citizen on Pearl Street. To live in New York, to love New York, is to know that we are the stewards of something without equal in our world. Where else can you hear the sound of the steel pan, savor the smell of sancocho, and pay $9 for coffee on the same block? Where else could a Muslim kid like me grow up eating bagels and lox every Sunday? That love will be our guide as we pursue our agenda. Here, where the language of the New Deal was born, we will return the vast resources of this city to the workers who call it home. Not only will we make it possible for every New Yorker to afford a life they love once again. We will overcome the isolation that too many feel and connect the people of this city to one another. The cost of childcare will no longer discourage young adults from starting a family, because we will deliver universal childcare for the many by taxing the wealthiest few.